Yuzuriha, a cheerful and carefree girl whose family also has ties towards the Nightblade. Many years ago, Yuzuriha's ancestors actually worked with the Nightblade, but an incident occurred in that group that made the Nightblade split into two. The Reformists, who wanted to protect themselves from outsiders, making the presence known of the Nightblade in the process, and the Moderates, who actually wanted to continue living in secrecy. The Reformists, who were also led by the Sugetsu clan, Yuzu's family, ended up moving away from the village and became the guardians of the Shrine of the Protector. And with that exit, the only thing that they got to keep from the Nightblade is the Iris Sword that is passed down through generations. And through generations, after they moved away from the Nightblade, Yuzu's family has fought voids the entire time. The previous guardian of the shrine was none other than Yuzu's sister herself, Hiroa. She was also an inbirth. But right after she was appointed as the guardian of the shrine, she was suddenly attacked by someone, not something. And with the attack, her vessel was broken. And after that shock, she distanced herself from the shrine completely. And that incident is the reasoning why Yuzu is now the successor to the shrine and the sword. Yuzu was also just a girl that wants to do her own things, eating snacks on the couch, watching her favorite TV show. But due to the incident with her sister, she has no other choice but to keep the job first before anything else. At the end of it all though, she just doesn't want to do a lot of work. As the caretaker of the shrine, she usually patrols the area at night, clearing the area of voids if need be, and to investigate the Hollow Knight itself. The Hollow Knight actually started ever since those days of the Lee Christ facing off against the Nightblade. The Hollow Knight is a special knight where the realm of the void actually intertwines with the realm of the real world. The Hollow Knight appears once a month during the night with the full moon. Normal people who actually end up getting caught within the Hollow Knight usually become the prey for the voids, and only some, if not few, awaken as inbirths. Strangely enough, there have been nights extremely similar to the Hollow Knight. In the areas that Yuzu technically patrols are always having fights. People who just awaken as inbirth would fight other people who have also awakened as being in inbirth. So Yuzu actually goes in the night to stop those who are fighting or plan on fighting, just to have some peace and quiet. It wasn't the title of being the caretaker of the shrine that is making her do all this. She simply said that she just had the strength to do something about this. So in her words, at the end of the day, she's doing it for personal reasons. And if she could save a few innocent lives in the process, it's a victory for her. Funny enough though, since her family has a sword as long as they are tall, some actually shared concerns of it being extremely dangerous to move around with. So on some nights, she wouldn't even use her sword to stop the inbirths from fighting. She would bring her broom because that would be the most convenient thing to use as a shrine maiden. Little did people know she's using that to stop fights, in place of her not using her sword. Then came the day when she entered the night again. But this time, she left her sword behind, and of course, she brought her trusty broom. But this night was different than the rest. It was a thicker scenario filled with EX. What she saw before her was red and the ground black. It was as if her eyes were tired or even bloodshot. And the more she got closer to something, the more dense the EX felt for her. The more she walked, she finally found her way to the source of such dense EX. And at the end of it were two inbirths fighting against one another. As soon as she gave her introduction though, one of the inbirths that were fighting was blown away extremely far from the other. And that was the end of that match. The one who won that fight was a playboy looking one. He walks up to Yuzu, apologizing that she had to see all this. He only did what he had to do because it was to answer that other person's call for a fight. With him though were two girls, one by the name of Zohar and the other by the name of Strix. All three of the characters that Yuzu sees before her were just awoken to their abilities. The one thing that Ogre actually does when walking up to Yuzu and apologizing is to know if the knight actually has rules, saying he would even be mindful of them from now on. Yuzu actually didn't believe this, but at the end of it all, he wasn't lying, and he just wanted to know if there was anything that would get him into more trouble than usual. After a few minutes of talking, Yuzu says to try to keep the fighting under control before someone dies by getting hit by Ogre's absurd strength. But Ogre actually had a goal during this whole ordeal. He wanted to observe the knight and see what his power was. As time passed, Ogre decides to ask Yuzu another question. He simply asks if she can teach him how to conduct himself in the night. He identifies Yuzu as somewhat of a senior in this whole situation, so Ogre just wanted information. Yuzu then actually agrees to show him the way, to lend a helping hand. But even Ogre knew that doing it in the night is pretty bad, because no one wants to listen in the night, everybody wants to fight, and he wants to know more about it in a more secure area. So, he invites Yuzu to a warehouse, where she can speak her mind. Once they made it to their destination, Ogre asks Yuzu to go ahead and explain the situation regarding the knight, and she doesn't hold anything back. She shares with Ogre everything she knows about the knight, from rebirths, vessels, voids, summarizing what EX and inverts were. Through the end of it all, Ogre was quite satisfied with the information that Yuzu knew, understanding the whole situation from voids, what the Hollow Knight really was, and so on and so forth. But something scratched the back of his head. He actually goes ahead and asks Yuzu a simple question. If she has all this knowledge and all this power, why does she remain an onlooker? He even goes ahead and pinpoints that with all her knowledge about this whole ordeal, the Knights was kept a secret. And with that, he decides to tell the truth about himself to Yuzu. The reason why he went to the Knight to begin with is to observe a new force of inverts. Ogre, Zohar, and Strix wanted to create an organization of inverts in the Knight. At first, he thought creating something like that was childish, but the power that he gained was interesting. He even puts a situation together, saying those who appear during the night, like himself, she appears to subdue them. He even says that that won't solve anything. And the reason being is because there are so many new inverts coming into the night, wreaking havoc upon one another. He says that she won't be able to handle them by herself at some point. So the thought process is this: wouldn't it be better to work in a group, not for your own personal gain, but to keep peace around the area? Yuzu at this point actually understands where he's coming from, but she actually tells him not to do it. She held this specific information back. She tells him that there was actually a town that was destroyed because of this power. A huge battle fought with EX, and that was the village of Yuzu's ancestors long, long ago. So Yuzu just asks something simple, just to live in peace, be normal until the powers disappear. Ogre actually sees that path as an option, but he objects towards it. He says he intends to act on his own plans, bumping into outlaws in the night and rounding them up with his power alone to bring about order. He even goes as far as to compare it to what Yuzu was doing. Even though he wants order, it's not a group of justice. It's just to maintain control when things get extremely dangerous within the night. Yuzu, at the end of the day, just wants everybody to avoid using their power in the first place, before history repeats itself. As long as the fight calms down, she'll have no complaints. But Ogre says that it was destiny that got him this power, and he would like to use it freely. Once he said that though, Yuzu kinda retaliated, saying she wouldn't mind defeating him right now in this warehouse, cutting his vessel with one simple slash of her blade. But sadly at this point, Ogre just stood there and laughed. Confused, she finally realized why he was laughing. This was the night where she actually didn't bring her sword with her. And with that, Ogre decided to show her his real power. Gate of Hades. Once he unleashed it, an incredible amount of EX filled the area in an instant, and his body was covered in a strange black-colored gas-like entity. And at the same time, a huge black gate appeared within the area. And for once in her life, she was actually worried that she was gonna lose against Ogre. She was actually trembling in fear, panicking on what to do in this situation. But as that happens, Ogre's EX just vanished. It was just a stunt. He doesn't wish to fight Yuzu in consideration of her ancestors, and so he doesn't burden himself with unnecessary resentment from her. But he does say this, that it would be most regretful to fight and be crushed by you right now. I could leave fighting you for much, much later. He even says that he was sure that he would lose to a seasoned fighter like herself. And with that, Ogre takes his leave from the conversation, walking back to both Zohar and Strix. But Yuzu actually calls out to him. She simply asks the name of the organization he plans on making, saying if she hears bad rumors about it, she'll just come by and crush every single one of them. The name he comes up for the group was Bon Kikai, the Demon Society. He even continues to go on to say that he is just like Yuzu. He's just someone that wants peace. Also saying that we can't eliminate the fighting completely, but we can reduce it.